The
Business.
Oddcast.
And welcome to another episode 10. Can you believe it? Episode 10
Good
of the
Lord.
Business Oddcast. Hello, good morning. I'm your host, Stuart, the awesome Morrison, and my co-host being...
Hannah, the equally awesome Logan. Does that sound good? I don't know.
That was brilliant. I thought it was Hannah Tangent Queen, Logan, but
Yeah, I am the tangent queen. Yeah, there is no denying that. And today I tangented into just being equally awesome.
exactly.
Look what I did there.
Fantastic. Excellent to be chatting once again. Developments this week. What's been going on in your business world?
Developments. Yeah, I've had some exciting bits and pieces going on. I'm becoming a student mentor. You know, I think that's quite a huge step forward in life, that somebody's trusting me to mentor a small or a young person. It's quite worrying, really, isn't it? But I passed all the tests, so
I'm officially.
including the DBS. Phew, there was a lot of sweating for that week, waiting to see. Quick, if you're listening to this, sorry, quick disclaimer: I've not been arrested, or anything. Just the paranoia, that lovely tism in my ear.
Just
Like,
in
what if we
case AI picks it up in
people?
the future.
Yes, I don't want to be arrested for something that only my brain created. Yeah, no. The paranoid. You can't be charged just being with paranoid. Um,
But
so
so
yeah,
a student mentor, and what's the aim with that? Is it just life mentoring or business
yeah.
specific?
I think it's just kind of life, really. That these young people have had a rough start. It's secondary school level, and these young people have had a rough start in life. And yeah, I just go in once a week. I've got a specific student that I have for the whole year, bit of continuity for them and me. Yeah, we go in and chat shit, I guess. I don't know. Bit of inspo along the way, hopefully.
Oh,
Maybe
somebody
I'll
who's
make them
got you's
laugh.
lucked right out.
I hope so. When I walk in there in my leopard print, they might be like, "Oh crap, what happened? Why did I get the weird one? What's wrong with her earrings? Why are they so big?" Yeah, I don't know.
Do they kind of there must be some middle person matchmaking and trying to make sure,
Yeah, they
yeah.
match us on interests and kind of, you know, interest stuff that we kind of have in common, hopefully. So I'm not going to be matched with a kind of football fan when I'm like, nope, no skills in that
Sitting there
department.
in
Not my
silence.
specialist subject. Sorry about that.
How did you come across
Um,
that? Where was that advertised, or did you apply, or how if somebody was interested in this very thing, how would somebody, or is it like you have to have the like
I
jury
didn't get like
jury
selected from this,
service?
yes, some kind of amazing power like put a spotlight on me. It was actually a networking event. I was chatting to a guy and we were talking about things that we liked outside of work. And he said that he did it as a voluntary role. And I was talking about advocacy stuff that I like doing and sort of charity stuff I've done in the past. And yeah, funnily enough, I said, "Oh my gosh, I'd love to do that." And he pointed to a magnificent looking woman across the room and said, "She's the person to talk to." And I did. It's quite a process because obviously you have to be screened and check you haven't killed any people and stuff like that. Maybe they want that, but yeah, no,
Well, that's
probably.
amazing, and actually, really neatly segues like we practiced into the topic of the week. What, Hannah Logan, is the topic of the week?
Right, so this week we are doing networking, the good, the bad, and the painfully awkward. So, one of my specialist subjects, I reckon. I've
So
set myself up now, haven't I, to be really good.
no, so it's interesting. Business networking, the idea of going networking, of expanding your network, of intentionally finding other people in business that might either know or need your services and help to grow your business. It's a concept that has occupied my brain for many years, having been in small business and done a lot of networking over the years. It's a great topic. So let's get diving in and get talking. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer. the recording of this episode comes after an evening of networking. So we went out networking last night to a LinkedIn local. Other networking events are available in your area. Choose wisely. Choose wisely. And I think anyone who's been in business for any length of time will understand the concept of networking, that you gather together and have general chit chats and try and find common areas, and hopefully business is engendered and engaged with and otherwise generally promoted. But like any walk of life, it's a bit of a mixed bag who's there. So let's talk about the hell that is networking. And I can finally open up about this. The hell that is networking for the neurodiverse. Go for it.
Well,
Where do you begin?
That's such an intro. The pain and suffering of networking.
Yeah.
Before I start, I just want to say, this is so cool. So on LinkedIn, somebody had commented about meeting us last night and actually said we were the coolest people there, because towards the end of the event, we'd kind of found a little corner, hadn't we, with a couple of other most likely spicy. Sorry, I just outed them on our
It's
podcast.
like a magnet. When you stop moving and
They
sit
did say
down.
it themselves, to be fair.
They
Yeah,
did.
I won't be
They
like
did.
the queen of diagnosis. Yeah, we'd kind of found our corner, hadn't we? It was really cool, and we just attracted a little small crowd, and yeah. No,
And
it's
Amy and
fabulous.
Michelle. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good.
No,
It's so
no
good.
surnames, no outing, but you know.
No, we're not
If you're listening,
with
if you've made it
you.
through to episode 10, thank you. And we'll see you at the next one. And grill you. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? Feedback.
So I suppose we should start, really. Look at me trying to stick to a structure. We should start with the challenges, because I think we both have established, and you've already said, that there are definitely some, a variety of challenges in networking when you've got a spicy brain like us. I think I'd probably say that the toughest one for me is maybe the small talk factor, because
Well, hang on a minute.
yeah.
I actually thought about this for 30 seconds or more before we started. And I actually think the challenge starts way before you get in the room.
Yeah.
The challenge is twofold. One, tricking your brain enough that walking into a room full of complete and utter strangers is going to seem really normal, because, you know, and when you do this for the first few times, it can feel really intimidating. And especially if you're diagnosed, self-diagnosed, undiagnosed, and questioning, wherever you are, that feeling of walking into a room full of, now I don't have this circuit in my head so bad, but I understand, and I can totally see how that can seem overwhelming. I don't want to, everyone's going to be staring, they all know each other, I'm walking, you know, and we've all had that experience at school, walking into the classroom or a new space, and everyone's head turns, the music stops, and everyone's looking at, you know, the piano in the corner, the guy, wait around here. We've all had that moment.
Werewolf in London moment.
Yeah. So that can seem like a barrier. But then there's the second challenge. Well, the second and third challenge. The second challenge is which group. There are paid groups, there are free groups, there's women-only groups. There's a plethora of groups out there, and there's morning groups for morning people, evening groups for evening, lunchtime, all sorts. There's all sorts. So how do you choose? And then the third one is getting booked on.
Yeah.
Reminding yourself to remember to get booked on and put it in your diary and do all of those things. It can seem like an overwhelming array and things. So we acknowledge that. We're not going to go into that, because let's say you've been in business, you've plucked up the courage, you've maybe gone to these things a few times, and you've booked on, and you're going regularly to a networking event. What are we facing, Hannah? What are we facing?
Well, you just touched on the kind of different types as well, and you're right. For me, the key one is also sort of either online or in person, but in this instance, I'm kind of referring to the in-person events, which personally are my preference, because I'm a people person, even if it just zaps all my life force, sucks out everything. I'm like a shell after these things. We'll touch on that in a minute. But yeah, so challenges. I think for me, I've got a, somebody else said this last night. I've got the kind of face that if we're doing small talk and I'm not interested, my I'm trying really hard to nod and smile, but my face is like, what? Shut up, stop talking to me. It's just, yeah, brutal. So I think I've experienced quite a lot of that kind of 60 seconds. What do you do? What do you sell? Kind of small talk stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm a no talk or a depth talker. I can't do small talk. I think I'm not alone there in the neurodiverse world.
No, I find it like I want to peel my face off.
Yes.
I love the fact that you do what you do in your spare time and your family and the thing you saw on the telly last night. But, you know, I have no interest in it whatsoever. And why should I use my precious life force up faking an interest in a topic that, oh, God, yes. So I hear that, and the energy required to listen against, because it's not just the one, it's not just the small talk in and of itself.
No.
It's trying to focus on watching paint dry whilst a brass band playing a cymbal break goes on behind you, while simultaneously you've got two people with torches flashing them in your eyes, and you have to make polite conversation that's relevant, germane, and shows you're a thoughtful and interesting person, whilst looking in their eyes, which feels like you're having your eyeballs pulled out and slammed back constantly into your face like bungees. All of that. And oh yeah, small dogs, you say? Fascinating. I get it. I think I get it.
I'm hearing sensory overload there.
It's
Maybe just a tiny bit, a little bit of sensory overload.
it's let's take last night, right? And this
Yeah.
is not to bag on any particular networking group. And a shout out to Rebecca and Martin, who run the lovely, I mean, the Guildford group is fantastic. Go, it's a plug for them. They're outside of my jurisdiction, so I feel like I can mention them. Other networking groups are available, and they put on a fantastic event. It was full of lovely people that we did chat and we met people, and it's in a fantastic venue, the County Club. Shout out to them. Thanks for hosting. You were marvelous. You couldn't have done any more. We had some nice soft drinks available, a glass of wine if you were not driving or whatever. So big love going in their direction. So anything we say is specific and particular. The problem is on the inside, not on the outside. So
yeah, venue, Guildford, awesome. Yeah, all of that. Yeah.
But you go in and you walk into a room, and this isn't just that room, this is any room. You walk into the room and you are suddenly confronted with what I find is a wave of noise. Now, there's no way of overcoming this. There just isn't. It is a load of people in a room talking, and depending on the acoustics of the room, it can change. But I find that moment, it's a little bit like stepping into the sea for the first time, and the waves suddenly coming up over your midriff, and your area, a gentleman's area, suddenly makes contact with the water, and you're like, oh, I remember this. Oh, and it just takes a moment to settle. It just, that soups on of like, oh, no, I've got this. Just relax into it, like maybe an overly warm bath for a lady, you know, like or getting used to it, and that's what I find. It's framing it in my head that this will be all right. The noise level, the light, all of the rest of it is going to, I'm going to accommodate. But it will require, like, the knobs inside, the adjustments on the dials. All right, quite turn the ears down, turn the ears down. Maybe consider putting the sunglasses on. Depends on the crowd. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. And the other thing so I felt that completely last night. You know, it was just a really busy space, which is fabulous in many ways, but also very overwhelming. And I think another thing to accompany that struggle, maybe struggle's the wrong word, but that kind of overwhelm, is that I like to know what to expect. And in that situation, you don't, right? Until we step into that room, I don't know how many people are going to be there. I mean, the first thing I felt as we went in was like, oh no, there's loads of people, there's people everywhere. I'm going to have to wrestle through people to the bar. And I kind of got that kind of, I'm either going to just jump out the window or I've just got to put my big girl pants on and crack on with it. And it was that fight or flight kind of moment where and I thought, because you were with me, I just thought, oh, this is just going to be equally bad for him. So sort of, yeah, that was the not knowing and then being hit with that wall of sensory overload. It was bright lights and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. I completely hear that, but I see my suits is like the equivalent of what I'm experiencing, that kind of that cognitive overload of, oh, adjustment, consideration, where's the lay of the land? How do I get out of here quick if I need to? Where I'm going to have to figure out where the loos are. Oh God, there's too many people here. There might be a queue. Oh, that's a nightmare. You get all of that, but the people looking at what they see, they get a cognitive moment of like, what? So it's like meeting like for like. So I get a moment to adjust my kind of face, my sense, my kind of attitude, how I'm going into this. And they're having to do the same by like, what the, and I see it on their face. They think they're hiding it. I see it on their face. It's like this, huh? Who is that? Should I know that person? I should know that person. That person seems to be very important. Well, he's not, but he is. How? Don't know. And one nice thing I really liked about last night, and again, props to Martin and Rebecca. They greeted us, they met us, they welcomed us personally, offered us drinks, and then walked us through into the networking room. It was a very nice venue for that. There was there was that facility, and being walked in and shown, like we were shown, it was Ian, I think, the artist guy, who's also a personal trainer, and I love that. I love the fact that he's got this kind of diverse nature to his business. But being then presented, oh, this is the artwork, and given something to consider, and then naturally would talk, the conversation started with other people. I thought that was a really nice thing to do.
Yeah. It eased us in, didn't it? It really eased us in, and it kind of settled, because I did feel slightly overwhelmed at first, for sure, but that settled. It gave us a little kind of pausey, breathy moment. And I should say that I'm always taking you to networking from here on in, because you were a great diversion. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, they're looking at me. And then within a second, I'm like, oh, they're not. Thank goodness. This is fabulous. They're all looking at Stuart. They're all looking
Eyes over here. Look at this.
Oh my gosh, you were just a human shield of awesomeness in your rainbow suit. I loved it. I just slunk off to the bar and you just kind of attracting like little, it's brilliant.
Two top tips if you want to make an entrance. Like, some people say like, oh, when they turn up, everyone notices, right? Well, yes, the suit, you've got a power dress to a certain extent, or costume. There's a whole Dan Kennedy thing on costuming. Don't even go there. But the point to it is, whatever you're dressed in, however you look, walk into the room and stop at the door and survey the entire room, right? Because it looks intentional, and it is, but it's not for why they think you're doing it. You're surveying the room so everyone knows you're there, okay? And people who are confident don't rush. They don't need to. Why? Because they're confident. They could be a confident arse, but they're confident, so they don't need to rush. So you stand in the door, there's a nice framed by the door, and then you look around the room, and then you pick a direction to move in. It might be someone it might be to the bar, it might be just up to a seat or whatever, but you have made the decision to move and moved confidently. The rest of it, I'm telling you, you make that entrance, and every single time you will have productive conversations. I'm sorry to get into the tips very early, but
no, tips, great.
It worked for me, and I was told this by somebody who'd been an entertainer for many, many, many years, and it was walk on stage and don't move.
Yeah.
Because you need people's time for their attention to focus on you before you start talking. So it's always leave like a few seconds, literally, for the room to focus and settle on you before, as an MC, ladies and gentlemen, welcome for coming, or whatever. Because the person who rushes doesn't have the power. The attention gives you the power. And people who are confident and powerful, they can hold a room in silence. Why? I'm waiting for you. You're not waiting for
Yeah.
me. And that changes the paradigm slightly for me in networking, because I find that I have really, really good conversations with people. The suits really help. I got to say,
Yeah.
the suits really help. But that
They're a
that
great
gives me,
icebreaker. Yeah.
yeah, that kind of gives me a structure around how I approach it. And unfortunately, I've tried turning my energy down for smaller groups or groups that are slightly more informal. I am the animal I am. I am wearing the loudest suit you will ever have seen, and I literally don't give two fucks. Well, he's a very interesting individual. Let's go and have a conversation. But I wonder if it's slightly intimidating to say, "Oh no, stay away from him. He looks like he could fucking hold himself in a conversation." Jesus.
I think that's a really superb tip, and actually I'm going to use that because my default in the scenarios like last night is to kind of try and get in there ninja like with nobody spotting me, and then immediately hone in and head for somebody I know. But I know, having just listened to what you've said, I realize that actually that just makes me feel more panicked and more awkward. Whereas if I looked like that was a kind of strategy I was going for, confidently stood, paused, walked in, headed for somebody I knew, if that worked for me, then I think there'd be less panic behind it and more kind of like, this is a choice, this is what I'm doing, more of a strategy, I suppose.
Okay, so I can hear cognitively, I can hear some of our audience going, but that's just masking. You're just asking me to increase my mask. And it's like
Mm.
kind of strategic masking. Think of it
Yeah.
as intentional masking that you know you're doing, and develop that persona that you know you can take off.
Mm.
And it's not being false. It's the buffed up, shiniest, best presented version of yourself. Like you've put on your best suit, you've
Yeah.
put on your best thing, and being confident about that. Even if you think I'm a bit quirky, I'm a bit odd, we're all quirky. I'm not going to say we're all on the spectrum, because that clearly we're not. We're not
I'll
all
have to
the
jump
same.
out my screen and slap you.
But we've all got our differences, and
Yeah.
walking. I just acknowledge the fact that walking into a room full of strangers, whether you are the most confident person on the planet or you're the least confident person, it's an intimidation if you're feeling. It's more of an intimidation if you're feeling less than I am worthy to be here. Otherwise, guess what? Wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And we're not saying here that are we're recommending that you compromise your authenticity at all, because, but like Stuart said, it's a really great tool to sort of get yourself in there and maybe overcome any of those kind of nerves that could potentially put you off doing events. Um, and sort of thinking about I can't say it, authenticity, what a horrible word. That gets all caught up in my teeth. Thinking about authenticity, spitting my teeth out. Um, what are your thoughts, Stu? I think I know what you're going to say, and I've really wrestled with this, balancing what is perceived as, I'm going to do the fingers, sorry, what's perceived as professionalism against what is our true selves. And that's not suggesting, excuse me, sorry, that's not suggesting that our true selves aren't professional, because we are massively professional. But before I started networking, and kind of, I do a lot of networking now, as you know, before I kind of got into it on a sort of regular level, I worried about that whole kind of fear of like, what if they find out who you really are? That sort of awful little voice saying, what if they think you're a bit weird because you randomly go off on tangents, or you talk too much, or all of that stuff we've been told over the years, right? That's been something I've really had to balance in my mind. Do I just go in as myself? I mean, nowadays, yeah, that's absolutely what I do. But at the beginning, do you go in as yourself? Do you try and go in as a persona, a sort of businessy persona that you think you should be?
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can hear. So I've been around quite a while. I've done the self-employment thing, the running the business thing for many, many years. There isn't any alternative for me, quite frankly. I tried the employment thing and it literally broke me. I like a caterpillar went into a chrysalis and came out a butterfly. Um, but it was a painful process. It in actual fact, that what people think is the caterpillar doesn't go into the chrysalis and then just grow wings. Oh no, the entire thing turns to mush, literally turns to mush,
No.
and comes out a completely different animal. I mean, just if you've never thought about it, or what, go and look at the life cycle of the butterfly and be amazed. It really is a truly awesome thing that happens in our world. If you're feeling less than, go and watch that and go, it's not even the ugly duckling story. It's like taking the ugly duckling, putting it in a blender, and it comes out a swan. Seriously, it blows my mind every time. Networking has gone through an evolution, and that evolution kind of mirrors how the self-employment landscape has changed. And it's changed for many reasons I don't want to go into, that's too dull and boring. But when I started, there was definitely going to formal business breakfasts, there being a very clear hierarchy of the people in charge, the top businesses, the guys who are, your solicitors and your kind of, I don't know, they've been successful, got a bit about them, and they would always be in a sharp suit with the whole thing. And I always thought to myself, coming from the theatre, you put on the costume, and people make assumptions about that character as soon as they walk on the stage. Oh, they're the baddie, they're the goodie, or whatever. So I thought, well, if the top most powerful people are wearing a suit, I'm going to wear a suit. It's got to be. And then over the course, and this is, and we're talking, maybe 20, 25 years ago, I was doing this. And over the course of a few years into the early 2000s, it became less acceptable to wear a suit. If you were wearing a suit, you were seen as a bit of a shark, a bit of a kind of like
sales pitch boy. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to say financial advisor or sharp salesman, but that vibe was emanating. And so people tended to wear a jacket and jeans, or a jacket and slacks, or a jacket and something else. And I tended to wear cardigans at that point, and I had a fairly relaxed look to me, but I'd maybe like a nice pair of trousers and a loud shirt, but a dull cardigan. I was hiding it, but kind of showing it a bit. Ooh.
I want to meet Knitwear Stu.
Knitwear Stu. No, Knitwear Stu wasn't a happy bunny at all. There was a lot of stress in my life at that point. But the point to it was that at this point, around at this point, I was the chair of the Farnham Business Club.
Oh yeah.
A small networking group, met up every week. It was fairly interesting chats with people, just the normal sort of businessy thing. Nice breakfast. It was all good. And during that time, I started wearing suits. And then when I finished my tenure about a year later, I noticed that when I was looking through photographs recently, I was wearing more the relaxed look. So that happened in the early 2000s. And then I did a lot of events, didn't do networking for a while, and didn't come back to networking until 2014, 2012, maybe in that sort of period. And it had changed massively, massively. Everyone was way more relaxed. There were people turning up who were in their work gear. Literally wearing, I'm not talking turning up in dirty overalls, but, we've seen the professional technicians. They wear a polo shirt and slacks, and they look great. Great uniform to wear, especially when it's maybe a bit grubby, dirty, but not greasy or oily. And they turn up with their branded workwear a lot. And I think that democratization of the branded workwear that you can buy a one-off if you need to at a reasonable price. It changed it, because then people could feel like, oh, well, I'm turning up in my workwear, I'm at work effectively, I'm promoting my business, and a lot of that became much more acceptable. And people just tended to relax more. I found that, you know, oh wow, I'm turning up in my relaxed casual business attire, and even then I'm still feeling a bit kind of, I've got a shirt and tie on. Nobody's wearing a tie, Stuart. But you see, that's when it changed for me, because I realized that if you look like everybody else, how do they pick who to talk to? The marketing starts when people's eyeballs rest on you. Who's that guy? Why is he dressed like that? And why can't I have a conversation with him because there's 20 people around him? And that's when I started leaning into the suits. The suits were a bit of an accident, but when I discovered them and I discovered the power of them in a large networking environment, like 3,000, 4,000 people at an event in Wembley, I must have had a conversation with every mover and shaker that wanted to know. And that was suddenly the turning point for me, was like, that's your uniform. That's what you've got to wear. You've got to become known for that, because once seen, never forgotten. And that and the moustache, even if somebody turns up with this, people are going to remember this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that long info dump ramble is like, do yourself these days. I think just be yourself. You know, a lot of people came up to me last night. Oh, where do I get one of those? And I tell them, and I know they're never going to think, you know.
No.
And somebody came up and said, "Why are you wearing the suits?" And I said, "Because I never got the memo that you weren't allowed to wear loud outfits." And she looked down at her lovely flowing navy blue dress, and she went, "I got that memo." And I felt a bit sad for her. And in that moment I realized, yeah, I am just me, you know. People can say I'd like to do that. Well, go on then. And Vernon Kaye yesterday, and I was told this by my wife, she said, when people like take the mickey out of his clothes, he goes, "I'm wearing this because you can't." Oh,
That's such a mic drop.
boom, done.
I love that. And funnily enough, to back up what you're saying, somebody that said, the person that I quoted earlier that said, "Oh, you were the cool people in the room," actually said to me, they said, "I met Stuart last night wearing that magnificent suit. Were you there, Hannah?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was literally sitting next to him on the sofa."
Literally took a photograph of us.
I was the person right next to the person that you remembered really well. And to be fair, I'd strategically chosen a bright kind of orange cardigan. And as I walked in, somebody said, "Oh, great cardigan." So I was kind of halfway there, but I know that I'm going to admit it here so that I have to hold myself accountable to this. I know that actually what I love wearing is loud animal print and all of that kind of stuff. And I always, at the moment, before a networking thing, think, "Oh, do I need to dial it down a bit?" And unfortunately, last night was a good example of me dialing it down a bit. Go bright, but don't go crazy. But actually, I think that's me. I'm going to say that right now. I'm going to do it. I'm going to turn it up.
I think there's a very human driver to a lot of what goes on in networking, and the driver is an economic one. It's like, I can't be my authentic self. I have to edit myself, because if people don't like me, they won't book me, they won't buy from me, they won't mention me to other people. And the trouble with that is, if you're editing yourself into this kind of curated version of who you are, especially when you're neurodiverse, that's not you. You can't sustain that. That's where my burnouts happen, is when if I try and keep the lid on the diverse nature of myself for too long, it comes out in unexpected and unwelcome ways. And I reached fuck it way sooner than a lot of people. I have a very low tolerance for other people's opinion, especially when it's directed about and to me. And that's my daughter is exactly the same. She'll look at somebody who's given them their opinion, and she's like, "Yeah, you can have that opinion, but yeah." Like the Earth, I have an atmosphere, and you've just glanced off it like some space junk, you know. Bye.
What an amazing way to be.
It kind of is, but it does make you a brash nightmare, and a little like, you know, if the sousaphone was a solo instrument, you know, It'd be a bit grating. There's a reason why we don't have rock stars playing sousaphones and we have sousaphone breaks. It's a bit one note. It's a bit like over too much chili in your spice in your meal, you know. Oh, some people's going to love that. But you see, I discovered again by accident that it's a really good marketing technique to filter out the noise.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that I was having conversations with were not productive. I wasn't meeting the type of person that would find this and the diverse nature that this brings with it as a benefit. And I think I prove my worth time and time again when somebody comes to me with standard thinking and I'm able to say, well, what about this? Happened in one of my businesses this morning. Came to me, said, we need to sell some tickets, but I don't want to use Eventbrite for various reasons. Does anyone know any alternative or free version? And I said, well, we could stick them on the website. You know, we'd have to set it up. And he goes, no, it needs to go today. Okay, you give me a new parameter. Stick them as a meal item on Just Eat as a ticket and sell them through the tills. Oh, I didn't think of that. No, and this is not. This is a very smart, motivated individual who knows his shit, but a little bit of left field thinking, and we came up with a. You gave me the parameters. My brain filtered out all of the things that we can't do today, and I gave you something we can do today. And I think that troubleshooting that's what I bring. I'm not saying that's a trait that is common to the entire neurodiverse community, but that, and I want to communicate that, and this works for me. So this isn't a one size fits all. I know this is actually a 46 European, not
it would fit me.
46 European man. But yeah, I think if you wanted to take all of what I've learned here and whatever, is just be yourself. Because if you have an economic imperative, in other words, if they don't like me, I won't get booked, I won't make money, and effectively the people with the money make you dim your light. I'd rather be poor in who I am than a wealthy person who doesn't. I think that's why there's a lot of unhappiness which comes with wealth, because you have to do and be things that don't necessarily fit in with your personality, worldview, or values.
Yeah, absolutely. And last night, at one point I felt like I'd lost myself in the wilderness. Then I could see you across the other side of the room. I kind of navigated the quickest route to you. And from that point onwards, I was actually having, I'd had some don't get me wrong, I'd had some good conversations before that point, but from that point onwards, I was connecting with, it felt more like genuine connections with my people. We ended up all sitting around a table, which was fabulous. And that was, for me, that last half hour or something was the real kind of genuine connection, that kind of community thing that I personally look for when I'm going there.
Chat round the table at a pub with your mates. That's what ultimately, that's who you want to do business with. People that you, if push comes to shove, would spend time with. Because if you're going to be doing business with people, guess what? You're going to be spending time with them or having conversations. And wouldn't you prefer to have a very awkward conversation about something which you may have a difference of opinion about with somebody who you like and respect, rather than somebody who's just holding the purse strings and you have to eventually, it's the, what do they call it? The hippo principle. The highest paid person's opinion wins out. And I've seen it over and over and over again. In fact, I've walked off projects because I've disagreed so vehemently with what the person who is pulling the purse strings. And the customer can have whatever they like. No, they can't. I'm sorry, they can't. Not from me.
Yeah.
I'd rather be correct and legal and honest and true to myself than have some extra money in my bank.
That's really sorry, that's really hit home for me, because actually, funnily enough, the last couple of weeks I was waiting on a little bit of work that I will potentially get. But the first week I was like, oh my goodness, is he going to get back to me? And to be straight on this, it's not the kind of work I enjoy. It's something I'm good at, but it's not something I really feel alive in when I'm doing it. And yet the kind of economic side of that has pushed me into like, I hope I get it, I hope I get it. But in the last week, I've kind of changed my tack on it, and now I'm feeling like actually I don't think I want it. So the lack of getting back to me has told me, and it's just a bit of sort of, I don't know, I know I won't out the work on here, but I've got some other things in the pipeline that are exciting and look fabulous. But this wasn't that. It was somebody else referring a bit of work over to me. And all the little red flags were like, Hannah, you don't like doing this. This is not going to be fun. The guy's a bit difficult, all of that stuff. And yet, yeah. So sorry, bit of a tangent.
No, it's valid, and we've all done it.
Yeah.
But the point
Mm.
I think we're both agreeing on is when you go networking, be a bit more intentional about the conversations you have,
Yeah.
and choosing how you show up affects that. And if you are dimming your light and turning yourself into a version of yourself which you think is acceptable and fits in, is both a lie to yourself and the other person, and no good things are going to come from it. You're not going to attract the right person. It's like going dating. Imagine, I can understand, the divorce statistics for diagnosis, post-diagnosis are shocking, but I can understand why, because you're now no longer that person. So you start questioning all of your decisions. Oh my God, if I creep around her or them around, in these areas, I see it, I get it. Move the conversation on, Stu. Let's have a conversation about, we've discussed this about coping. Let's drill in and have a think a little more about that. So coping strategies, we said, the maybe the stress of the event happens way before that. So before the event, any tips, any thoughts, any ideas on how to still the inner turmoil?
Well, so for me, so right before the event is about picking the right event. So I know we've kind of touched on that a bit, but I think I'm at a stage where I now know the events I like, or the events that are less exhausting and less painful for me. So that is a kind of, a million steps before the event. But then I guess right before the event, it's kind of, what do I do? I guess the first thing I do is I try and work out who's going, which people I know that are going, so I can almost rehearse some of those conversations a little bit in my brain. And that's not to say my conversations aren't authentic, but for me, I have the kind of brain where if I've rehearsed a few potential conversations, even if they never happen in reality, it just puts me in a kind of safety zone. Does that make sense?
100%. The amount of times somebody's asked me, so how are you? And I've gone, oh, the boiler's just broken, and just had a really dull conversation about some minor inconvenience in my life when I could have been using that time to say, it's going really good in the business. We're doing this, we're doing that. But because I haven't prepped my brain of like, this is a business, they're not interested in your boiler, your VW hobby, unless, maybe you go beyond the initial, but you're there to have a business orientated, how's it going, is how is your business going, not you speaking to your mum, are you eating your greens? How is it?
Sister, if you've got one. I've got one, she's amazing.
But have some talking topics about what you're doing, because those conversations are going to naturally crop up. What you're doing at the moment, what do you do? How do you do that? What sort of projects have you worked on? Just seeding your brain to soak it and prepare it for those kind of conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I do. Sorry.
No, go on.
Other than interrupt Stuart regularly, the other thing I like to do.
I need it. It's like a.
I'm so
continue quick before I start speaking again.
I like to give myself an escape route. I like to know exactly what venue I'm going to. I like to pre-decide where I'm parking. I need all the detail. And I also give myself permission. If you don't, it's like what I say to my kids all the time. They're grown up now, but what I used to say to them as well. I give myself permission. If you're not feeling it, if you're feeling bad, if you're overwhelmed, you can go early. Nobody dies. It'll be okay. That kind of permission, that boundary, I suppose, allowing myself that means that I can go in there thinking, worst case scenario, you can just leave. And that works. That really works for me.
Oh, 100%.
Mm,
100%. Any social gathering that is uh starting to become a struggle,
mm.
then yeah, either leave completely or take yourself off. I've done this before, taking myself off during networking meetings from the networking event room and gone and sat in a quieter space. And just like last night, all of the others, all of the other moths, they come a fluttering.
It was beautiful. It just, yeah, we all just ended up, didn't we?
Yeah.
But we had about 4 or 5, including us, really awesome humans just sitting around, all
Just
with that
slightly
kind of,
outside the main event space.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'd found our own kind of tribe, literally. And yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool. And you said about kind of taking yourself off. So last night, I took myself off to the toilet with a kind of must go to the toilet strategy, even though that wasn't what I was doing. And the toilet, by the way, was about as big as my house. And it had a sofa in it, not in the actual cubicle. I should quickly
In the
say.
cubicle, there was a
Yeah. There
sofa
wasn't
and
much space to go for a week because it's just a giant sofa. No, it was huge. But actually that was what I needed. Just that little like quiet, no people, deep breathing. I wasn't, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't I wasn't that overwhelmed, but it was my body was saying, okay, Hannah, you just need a few minutes. Take a few minutes. Again, boundaries, self boundaries, take a few minutes. It's cool, make your excuse. I'll be back in a minute. And that's what I did. And it gave me that little pause that I needed to kind of regroup.
one of the things, one of the myths that I had in my head about when I took up running was when you run, the running, you run at full sprint until you can't run anymore. And I was like, how do people do marathons? Now they are running really quick. Nothing to take anything away from Eliud Kipchoge or any of the amazing runners we've got. Philly Bowden, just
Mm,
incredible runners. But the point to it is, most of the running that I've done with clubs is you run and at about mile and a half, 2 miles, you stop, you have a moment. You let the slower
yeah,
people catch up. Everyone, you don't run off when the slow people because they don't get a break then. But you know, so the faster you are, the more you're not running, to be fair, because
yeah,
you're stood there waiting for the slower people, and this is no, I'm usually one of the slower people. It depends on the group. They catch up. You can't then
mm,
run off again because otherwise, then they're like, oh well, I haven't had a chance to have the 10-minute break that it's taken for me to.
yeah, yeah.
And it's a little bit like that in networking.
Mm.
You're not constantly. You've got to go and have a break. You've got to go and have a just catch my breath, catch my thoughts, regroup
Yeah.
and decide, have I got any energy to carry on, or is it this the moment to slide out the exit without saying goodbye? So yeah, no,
Yes.
I 100% that strategy, 100%.
Yeah. And you just touched on energy management. That is so, I mean, you've just said a fair amount about it, but that is so important. Recognizing how your energy gets zapped, recognizing what spoons you've got when you're heading into the room. For anybody that knows about the spoon analogy, um, and
That's
and
why
being,
sorry,
yeah,
that's why maybe a morning session might be better.
yeah,
It depends when your energy kicks in. But
yeah,
I've been to morning ones, I've been to evening ones, and the evening ones are much more of a struggle for me, especially if I've had a stressful day.
yeah, yeah, because you're already kind of zone, yeah, you've already possibly at a kind of low level of energy.
Last
It,
night was
yeah,
was okay because I'd had a fairly straightforward. In fact, I'd spent the day
yeah,
doing some stuff that I love doing. I love artworking and
yeah, yeah.
figuring stuff out around that. Music on, a nice
Mm.
cup of coffee, chill afternoon to then go out. Oh, a little bit of business.
Yeah, I like that. And you just what I tend to do now, and I know you've said this in the past as well, I plan my week, and I'm lucky, self-employed, I can plan my time and my energy. I knew that an evening would be quite exhausting and it would be intense from an energy using up point of view. So therefore I had a fairly chilled out day, just doing some tasks I knew would be easy, little bits of work here and there, so that I kind of built myself up to the evening. And it sounds kind of pretty much what you just were saying as well, your day yesterday, because it is, and the same goes for today. Yeah, we're doing this, which I absolutely love, and it doesn't zap my energy, but actually it's also about considering kind of what recovery strategies, you know, that how you need to recover the following day.
We'll pick up on that in a second. Just one last
Yeah,
thing before we move on. Here's a coping strategy that it's both useful and uh, energy managementy.
yeah,
And that is decide what the event is, you know, have a look on their website. If it's a structured event where, and some networking events do this, I'm part of one of the networking events that kind of
yeah,
does this, where you have some open free form networking before a formal presentation with slides and various other things, and then back to the informal networking. Now, with those, it's really difficult to turn up late
yeah.
because if, let's say, there's usually half an hour or so beforehand, just
Mm.
turning up too early in that, okay, try and turn up a bit later. So maybe, but your idea is you're going for those conversations. So going when
Yeah,
there's a presentation and then leaving after it, you've not, why bother going in the first place? So the networking part of it is important. Make sure you're there for it. But those more free form ones, the more informal, like there may be a welcome or whatever, turning up late. I'm telling you, turning up late. Now, this isn't going to be popular, but it does help you manage your energy because you step in and it's already going. Okay, so you're less obvious for, and we'll get onto this in a second, the types of people. We'll have we'll have a little discussion about the
the
types of
names.
people. See if you spot yourself. But it allows you the room to filled up and chances of seeing someone you possibly even tangentially know, and softening that kind of entry in gives you more framing in the door, more people to look at you, because otherwise it's just you and the host, like they're staring at, why is he standing there, he's not coming in, why is he not coming in? That's a bit awkward. um but it also means you can leave as well, just slide
Yeah,
out the door, so you can manage your energy in a more anonymous way because you've turned up. Hey, look, I came when I could, I left when I needed to,
mm,
stuff going on in my life, you know, whatever the, and I kind of do that at parties as well. Turn up when it's
yeah.
in full swing, leave before it's starting to taper off and the hugs are being thrown around.
Not the hugs. We'll come back to
We'll
that.
come back to that.
Oh,
Um, so after the event, let's go briefly talk about that before we
yeah.
give you some coping strategies for the people you might meet. Um, Today is after the event. It's unusual for me to plan something like this after
Mm,
that event, but it was important that I think, given what this topic is
yeah.
about. Um, what is your usual coping strategy?
So directly after the event, I am
Well, yeah, from
buzzy, like
literally the
I am.
moment you walk out, the next
Oh yeah,
day, how the
yeah.
aftermath is coped with.
Yeah. So the way I cope with it, when I get home, I need a good couple of hours to kind of come back down because socially I'm kind of on the ceiling because I've talked and talked and I'm kind of my brain is tightly wound up and buzzy. So I'm not, especially for an evening event, there's no way I'm going to sleep for at least a couple of hours. So I plan that into my kind of post-event strategy. Um, and I stayed up watching something fabulous on Netflix till about 1 in the morning because I needed that. That for me calms me down. I know there'll be people out there that say, don't look at a screen before bed. It calms me down and makes me tired. Sorry, science. So- it works for me, you know, we all know what works for us. And then yeah, today, like I said, got a pretty chill day. I don't feel zapped though. It was a great last night was a great networking session because it was a really lovely, and I'm holding you responsible in a good way for this. Well, I kind of inadvertently, because I went with you, I got to benefit from your, you know, we turned up a little late, which worked brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly. And then quite quickly, I just hitched my wagon to your networking skills, and it kind of meant it wasn't just a load of awkward, you know, conversations for me. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's
I
kind
was on last night. I gave them the full
yeah.
Stuart Morrison.
It was magnificent. I just bathed in the light.
I sometimes I listen to myself and think, "Oh, shut up." Um,
No, it was
but
brilliant.
when people are laughing and are engaged,
Yeah, it was fabulous.
yeah, I'll be the funniest conversation you have for a while. Unintentionally, 90% of the time. What did I say? Why is everyone laughing? That's my honest opinion,
It
people.
was brilliant. You weren't embarrassing, just to reassure you.
Good. Wait, was that you were stood over the other side of the room looking, going, no, people are still talking to him. He's not embarrassed himself yet. I'm all right.
He's not been led out. There was nobody getting you in a semi-Nelson marching you to the front door.
What did he say? There's some small scuffle.
Tannoy message, can somebody remove the man in the rainbow suit?
Code Rainbow, Code Rainbow, Code Spectrum.
I looked over to you and you were the opposite end and there was a big crowd between us and there was just two people around you laughing and I just thought, yeah, I'm like, look at the shiny thing, I'm heading over there. I want to join that laughter.
It is beacon. It is a beacon. I'm telling you, go and find a semi-quiet spot, a nook, a thing, sit down, and the Rainbow Nation will come find you. They will come find you. They'll come march over and sit down and go, oh, somebody's broken the ice. I can sit down. Oh, yeah, it's a bit, This is one of those topics where I just know we could talk about it endlessly. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep the energy like this and we're going to do part 2. So this will be divided into 2 parts. And you'll get the second part next week. So listen in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Any final words, Hannah?
Just tell your friends, tell everybody how fabulous we are, and you really, really want to come back for the second part.
Where do they say to go? Which is our website address?
businessoddcast.com.
It certainly is, businessoddcast.com. All of our episodes are there, including this one, and the part 2 will be coming out a week later. So maybe you can steel yourself for that. But yeah, so send us your messages, hosts@businessoddcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback, your comments, the things you loved, the things you think we could make better, the challenges that you face, and we'll maybe cover them in a future episode. So thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. And part 2 of business networking and the neurodiverse experience, especially the types of people you might meet. So, including us.
Oh, it's going to be good.
It's going to be a good one. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye. Step away from PAYE. Don't do it.